Today on Online for Authors, I'm chatting with Gregory Grosvenor, author of Second Pocket First. Welcome, Gregory.
Hi, Terry. How are you?
I am doing wonderful, and I'm really excited to have you here. I enjoyed the book. I found it quite humorous. But before we really dive in, give readers just a quick idea of what they're going to find when they open up the cover of Second Pocket First.
Yeah, here's the. It's backwards, I think. But
no, I think it'll be fine. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, if it's backwards, this is what it'll look like backwards. It is about Second Pocket First is about a slow-witted thief or burglar who goes to Vermont to restore his self-esteem. It is, in part, my last conversation with the state of Vermont, a place I lived for about 4 years. Didn't do great at, and I love Vermont. I have a real push-pull relationship with it. I live in Massachusetts now, but I lived in central Vermont for a while. And so I always wanted to write something with Vermont. And so this is about a burglar who goes to Vermont to, again, sort of gain his self-esteem back, but in the process sort of unifies a community and brings back its sort of love for itself and its love for, I think, not having possessions. It's a book about not having possessions. Really what the book is inspired by, in so many things, it's the reverse of Gift of the Magi, where the people get rid of their beloved possessions to give them their soul back or whatever. This is a book where a person steals things and in part accidentally gives people back their sense of self, their sense of community. So it's a lighthearted, stupid book.
But it's so funny, and I loved the character right away. So Issey, he's a thief, but is he really? And for him, it's not even as much for the stealing of things. It's more about, does he look good? Is my outfit correct? And does my hat sit, at just the right angle on my head?
Right.
And I think one of the things that made me laugh so hard was often he would steal something and you would wonder, well, why is he taking that of all things? And he'd throw it into his duffel bag. And by the time he got home, it was broken.
Yeah, most of the things are pretty worthless. And there is in one part of the novel, there is a list of items that he does have. And actually, some of them are very valuable. There's a Julia Child's cookbook that he has. It's very rare, but he has no idea. He really, as you said, Terry, he likes the shapewear. He likes the outfits. He's somebody who struggles with his weight throughout the entire book. And actually that becomes a really funny joke about how he stays alive at one point, and it deals with him and his shapewear.
Right.
Exactly.
And I find him to be really humorous. What made you decide that you were headed for, I'm going to call it crime comedy? Like, I don't even really know what genre to put it in.
Well,
so, I noticed on Amazon, they kind of have it listed with mystery, but also with comedy. Dark comedy. I didn't find it to be that dark. I found it to be really quite refreshing. I don't know. What made you go here? Of all the places that you could decide, hey, I'm going to write a book, what made it there?
I think the publisher handles that. So I'm published by Black Rose Writing, and they're really getting, I really have to say thank you to Black Rose Writing. So they're a small press out of Texas, and they're really getting quite large. They do the Amazon, what category it goes under. And I think it might even, he actually is like under law and crime. I mean, I don't know. It's something I can't control. I can't go in there.
No. I understand that. But I mean, for you personally, what made you decide that what you were going to write was this comedy with this side of like mystery and crime? Where did that come from?
There's a few things as like a writer why I chose to go in a comic route. One piece of advice I heard from a comedian, not that we spoke personally, but Craig Robinson from The Office. He played Daryl on The Office. And a piece of advice he received is something that stayed with me, never be funny. And that's something that, books that have comic overtones are always trying to be funny. And so if you write everything seriously, but what happens is you have such contrasting images that it makes it ridiculous. And it just becomes funny because comedy really relies on such violent contrasting images running headfirst at each other,
Right.
two opposing forces. Another thing that happened is that I used to be a really serious writer because I thought that was how you did it. I had 2 completed manuscripts before this one, and both, really suffered because I am not a serious person. They were angsty young men, not like angsty young man novels, but they tried to be too clever and too smart for their own good, and they were much smarter than me and than what I was capable of. And I realized, like, I don't ever say like I'm a really funny person. I think usually lame people kind of say that. Hey, I'm really funny.
Funny.
But, they're like the least funny people ever. But I just started realizing that I really like stupid things. I don't like things that take itself so seriously where you can't mock it, or you can't poke fun at it, or you can't laugh at it a little bit and join in on it. Too often books seem to hold this category of seriousness, and people say, I don't read anymore because of ... And I think the reason why so many people don't like reading is that there's never moments of lightness. Right. And there's never that, well, we can sort of be offbeat. Now, there are so many great offbeat writers. Donald Westlake is a great crime writer, and he's really offbeat, and he's quirky, and he's funny, but he takes his subject matter really seriously. So that's what you have to do. You have to take it really seriously, piece it all together, and then it comes out, the way you want it to come out. Now, comedy is funny because you then risk not connecting with people, because if somebody says, this isn't my kind of comedy, or this
isn't my kind of funny, right?
Right, and they're going to be turned off immediately. I remember an early reader from the UK, one of her first comments was, this isn't my kind of funny, I hate this book. And I thought, okay, that's honest. But that's the risk you take. And, art without risk isn't art. And I think comedy needs to be appreciated because it's so challenging. Just first of all, it's challenging just to write a story that's over, 70,000 words or whatever. But then it's challenging to say, well, now I'm going to do it with a certain kind of voice that I hope makes you laugh a little.
Yeah.
And that isn't totally offensive.
Right. Right. So it's interesting right now that the manuscript I'm working on has strong comedic overtones.
Yeah.
It's about a woman who's going through menopause, and right. It's funny. It is meant to be funny. It's her tongue-in-cheek look at herself and the fact that she's gaining weight and that she puts her phone in the refrigerator and that she can't find her glasses on top of her head and that she gets so angry at people that she does things that she then wonders if she should be put in a mental institution. Right. And it's funny. Yeah. But I have lost her voice so many times and had to go back.
Really?
And say, okay, now how do I keep her voice? Because I've written historical fiction, right. And I get myself very caught up in the story and I forget it's less about the story. It is about the story, but it's also about this woman and what she's going through and how she feels about it. And sometimes that gets left. And then I've gone through in the story and I'm like, where did she go?
Yeah, and readers get sick of voice,
Right.
But then when the voice leaves, what happens is there's nothing left. I mean, there's the story and the reader's like, well, something's missing. The thing that's so amazing about all writing, and this is something that I can appreciate with every writer, is that you are piecing together something that is so impossible to do and so challenging to do that a person who comes in with zero training can read your book and go, this is awful. And they don't need to have any training whatsoever.
Right. They don't need to understand all of the terminology and the whys. They just know.
And that's completely fair. I can't go into the heart surgery room and be like, I know this guy doesn't know what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, I have no clue. But a reader who has no training can say, I don't buy this.
Right.
And I think when you then deal with comedy and voice, and, well, if you're making fun of something, what are you making fun of? And is it innocent enough that it can be a universal kind of laughter where you're not mocking things?
Right.
And, one of the challenges is that, well, what are things that you can make fun of that that can be enjoyed across party lines? I think that one of the things I wanted to do with this novel is that you didn't want to know how the novel voted. if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and you didn't. It didn't feel political bent. It didn't
Right.
feel I didn't feel any of the societal norms come out, except for we probably shouldn't be in other people's homes. I mean, you know what I'm saying? There wasn't any, I didn't feel like there was an agenda.
Right. You
And
know,
it went really well. I really enjoyed that. Your Amazon bio states that you've taught short story writing at a number of colleges.
yeah.
And now here you are writing a novel. What made you, I guess, is there a connection between your short story writing and this novel? Are novels completely different? What made you go a different way? I'd like a little more insight on that.
You know, they call, or J.G. Ballard calls short stories the loose change of literature. Short stories are such a great way for a writer to develop their craft and to learn how to strive for conflict, complications, and climax. They learn how to tell the perfect joke with a short story. You learn how to really, be in service to the story, in service to voice, in service to characters and outcomes. When you get finally ready to write a novel, and it takes years. I think it takes years. I'm so loyal to the craft and novels. I mean, you might not think it because my book is so, offbeat or whatever, but I'm so loyal to it that I felt like I had to write short stories again and again and again before I had the luxury to expand to over 65 to 70,000 words. And I still kind of keep that short story mentality as a writer, that when I start, because my chapters, I like to keep the chapters very short. I think you notice they're pretty short, Yeah. I like to keep it so that there may be like 2,000 words. And my goal at the end of the day for writing day is to shave off like 100 to 150 words each time I'm writing. Like I really like that, cutting more and more and more and getting less in love with the sound of my own prose or the sound of my own descriptions or whatever, because I do love language so much. I mean, there's a lot of clever wordplay in the book that I hope doesn't slow it down too much. But it's, again, the short story is just a superb thing, and I think in college classrooms for what I teach, teaching the short story is about appropriate because it does help people become better writers. It helps you figure out how to watch TV shows better and movies, and you can kind of see everything that's given to you in the first 30 seconds,
Right. It's interesting. I wrote my first novel, it came out in 22, and I have zero background. I've taken no classes. I don't have a degree. I have a degree, but not in writing.
Yeah.
I didn't, I'm a reader and I have read copious number of books. And so I kind of feel like I know how a story is supposed to go.
Right.
I'm very much a pantser. So I just kind of start writing, and then I have to go back and do copious amounts of editing because my story is all over the place and I have to figure out how to jangle it back into some kind of a form. I put shapewear on it. And it's interesting because I didn't start writing short stories until after that.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm now using short stories as a way to help me become a better writer. How
really
how to take my long, flowy Terry Wanders in the Woods stuff and bring it down to, I've only got 3,000 words or 5,000 words. What am I going to do with this?
Right. A pantser is somebody who
writes by the seat of their pants. There's no plotting. I usually have an idea, maybe a character, maybe a scene, maybe one, and then I just say, ooh, that would be fun. And I just start writing.
Yeah. And the novel Second Pocket First started as a short story.
Okay.
It was a short story. There was a version of the short story that was published in 2006 or so. And it was called something else, because I don't want anybody finding it.
That's fine.
It was a very long short story. And it was, if you follow the short story, if you see it, you'll realize it is, without realizing it, so much I have been influenced by Anton Chekhov's Lady with the Pet Dog story, which is sort of a perfect short story, but structurally I realized I use summary the way that Chekhov uses summary. And I found it the other day. I was like, wow, this is really quite something, because the way that story moves is the exact way that the original had moved. And so I used that short story as the basis of the novel because I really like this character, Issey.
Mm-hmm.
He is a thief. He's a burglar. He's slow-witted. He has a certain kind of charm. He's good at lockpicking. He's got to be good at something. Characters have to be good at something. You can't just have this, fool walking around. You have to trust that this person is in their position for some sort of skill. And I had the bones of this the novel based on that short story, but I had always used that short story as chapter 1. And so when I submitted the book to the publisher initially, it was this sort of, the first chapter was like 30 pages long. The second one was 17. And I think the publisher, it was sort of the attitude of, who do you think you are? What do you think that somebody's going to read 30 pages of something that's pretty formless, And so getting the note that they like the character, but let's cut this down. Let's find that story. And it was like everything I taught about immediate conflict, complications that screw everything up, climax. It was like I didn't take my own advice. And so learning how to rewrite, that the novel helped me become a better writer. And I just thought, they'll love my language, and they'll they'll luxuriate in the prose. Well, so my favorite writers were like that.
Right. Well, so you fall into the same category as everyone, which is, here's this wonderful book that teaches us how to write, and everyone should follow it except me because I'm so amazing. And my work will be, I don't have to follow that. And it's I think we all kind of fall into that. Like we know what's supposed to happen, and then there's me, and I'm writing, because
I just thought I could be, Vladimir Nabokov and just, write like Lolita. Lolita is a really thin plot. Nothing really happens in it. People, are so enraged because of the, there's a lot of pedophilia in it. But really, it's a travel narrative about a guy who's just driving through America, with, of course, his the woman he's obsessed with, the little girl he's obsessed with, the child, and it's just so beautifully written. And there's just so many passages. There are so many passages that are so moving, and you just go, "Where did this guy sell his soul to find these sentences?" Nabokov,
right?
And then I really like Martin Amis, who is another novelist who thin plots, but really sharp prose that is burning, and it's so good. And so those were my heroes growing up. These guys who didn't write great stories, but had really good prose, had very sharp prose. These weren't the greatest heroes to have in terms of how to develop as a writer, how to learn how to write a story. So it took me a long time to actually learn how to write a story and to, get rid of your ego. Because I think a lot of, and I can only speak for myself, but a lot of male writers have a lot of ego. It's really competitive. Like, look at my sentence. Whereas it's like, well, okay, so what? You showed off for a little bit, but where's the story? So Second Pocket First is all story. There's some clever lines in there, but I really wanted to just have forward momentum all the time and not have somebody feel like, okay, when are we getting to this next? Right.
And I don't know that it's just male writers that have egos. I think we all have egos. We get caught in that, didn't I just write a beautiful sentence? Isn't this beautiful? Yeah. And I've even found that I went to a book club the other day, and one of the people in the book club said, let me read this sentence. And it was my book, and she's reading this sentence, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I wrote that. We all get that, and it's lovely to have those sentences, but without the story, they don't matter.
It's true. Sometimes, when I am at the bookstore and I'm looking for books to read, I will go in the middle and check out the prose. I never look at the summary because the summary always gives it away. Even this book, you get to page 100, the summary kind of gives things away. I guess that's just how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to give a bunch of stuff away. But I look at the prose first, and I know that'll carry because that's what I like. But I don't know if a lot of people, I think people like good story. My quote unquote beta testing for this book was to read it in bed and to fall asleep to it, and then to see if I could pick up the following night without having to. Of course,
I
wrote
it and read more. Right.
I thought that I had written the best thing. I had a sentence in my, and I still have this laying around somewhere. And I know one day I'm going to use it. It's a quadruple negative. And I'm like, well, I'm the best writer of all time. I got this quadruple negative, and it's this. We always knew you'd fail. Your father didn't think you wouldn't, but I never didn't. And I was like, I've written this absurd sentence, this quadruple negative.
And you see me, did you see my eyes cross?
I did. And I was like, this is so stupid and it's so good, but it's just too much. I mean, Terry, you almost had to have the ambulance come.
Seriously. I mean, I just about had a stroke right here on the, yeah.
Yeah.
That almost would be a sentence that would be perfect for something like a flash fiction, like a really short flash fiction piece
like
that people are meant to have to stop and cross their eyes and try to figure out what was just said. Like that sounds like it should be in a flash piece.
There's a writer, a performer, a comedian, actress, Amy Sedaris, who is really a major inspiration for me. And she had a show called Strangers with Candy with Stephen Colbert in the 90s and Paul Dinello. And that was the kind of writing that would be in there. Was, a lot of double negatives that were done on purpose and a lot of really quick things. They actually wrote a book together, the three of them. This is before Colbert was Colbert, when he was still in a character. And I can't remember the name of the book, but it's a book that's about a small town that's quite stupid. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's really good. Actually, I reached out to Amy Sedaris to see if she would do a blurb for my book. And I'm sure she's just now getting around to doing it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to happen any moment. In fact, after this podcast, it is sure to happen. Just so you know. Right. Absolutely. So I'm assuming, because you did not know what a pantser was right off the top, that you are a plotter, that you write everything out beforehand. Do you know where you're going?
I wasn't familiar with that term. I mean, probably a little both. I mean, I write down, this is a new thing for me now. And I write down the images I want to see in each chapter. And I think that's really kind of fun for me. Like, for example, I want to see in this new book I'm writing a closed sign, a closed for lunch sign. And I wanted to see one of the main characters on a beach. I was like, these are the things you need to have in this chapter. I don't know how I'm going to get there necessarily, but I those need to happen. I find that when I get too plot driven, that it becomes a little stiff.
Yeah, it does for me.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with this book that I'm currently working on, my manuscript, is I've been in places where all of a sudden I become very focused on word count, how much I'm getting done today, that kind of thing. And once I do that, then I become very worried about number of words I've written and where am I in the plot and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow the voice isn't there anymore.
Do you do daily word count or daily hours spent?
I don't ever do anything daily. I don't like people telling me what to do. So I'm very much, I tell people that I word vomit. So I just whatever's in there, I just let it come out and I don't worry if it's pretty. I look at that later. And I also binge write. Okay. So I might write for 8, 9, 10, 12, sometimes as many as 14 hours in a day and then not touch it again for a week.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, both those are really good diet plans, the vomiting and
the binging.
The binging. And I think you mentioned word diarrhea or something.
Yeah. All of those, they're great.
So I know that feeling because when I was younger, I would do all night writing and I would, it was really unhealthy, but the next day I'd be so out of it that I couldn't write anymore. Right. So now, I like to train myself to an hour to 2 hours a day. And with my teaching schedule, that is, kind of impossible. Also, I'm a diehard Seattle Seahawks fan. And I know that I have to put aside Sundays aren't going to happen. And then Mondays are usually spent with me working in my Seahawks feelings journal because of how disappointing they have let me down in terms of their tackling.
Yes.
In terms of some of their offensive schemes, guys.
In case you're listening. Right.
Coach Mike. But no, I know that Sundays are out of the question, when the season comes in. And I heard the novelist Richard Ford, he said that during the baseball season, he does not write at all. I guess because baseball is so boring that he has to basically not write during that. Baseball's great. Okay, I don't want to offend Major League Baseball. All right. But no, you try to write every day, even if it's just doing something on the phone.
Yeah.
Do you dictation?
So I do dictate on the phone. I'm often walking, and an idea will come to me, and I'll quick dictate something in as to what that idea was. I tell people I don't write every day, but I think about writing every day.
Yeah, you're keeping that fire going every day.
So maybe I'm trying out scenarios in my head, and I've not written any of them down, but I've come up with 4 things that are not going to work.
Yeah.
It's like that cannot happen. And
I like to do store names. A lot of my ideas are names for stores that are stupid. I mean, there's a lot of dumb store names in my book. I think there's the Bernays King in Second Pocket First. There's a lot of different names for things a lot of things I do are inside jokes and little Easter eggs for people who are friends of mine. And I'll know if they have read the book.
If they will be able to laugh at it. Yeah.
Thing that I put there perfectly for them. But I think when you're doing a voice, because you have your female character in your new book, and it's voice driven. When you're away from it's hard to get back in that voice again because it's so consistent and it drives the narrative forward. For Second Pocket First, it's a winter novel, and it took 8 years to write this book. Strangely enough, it's like Dolly Parton, where it costs so much money to look this cheap. This book took 8 years to be this stupid. Like somebody looks and goes, "This took you 8 years to do." This fat guy jokes, to do girdle jokes. It took this long. It is funny because you have to think, because it's a winter novel, will I be in love with this book in the summer?
Right.
Because the season plays such a heavy part of this book. That's always the question. Will I be in love with you in June and July? And I think as writers, at least I'm connected to the weather, the atmosphere, physicality plays a big part in writing, and summers are really oppressive, and they can make me feel bummed out. And when you're trying to write here's the deal. I'm a moody person. My wife.
Well, you're a writer. You're allowed to be moody.
I'm allowed to be moody.
That's part of the whole persona right there.
I thought I was charming, but people say I'm just moody. And so I'm like, but I write so light and so silly. And so when I'm sitting down to write, I'm not having a good time. You know what I mean? I'm not like, oh, blah, blah, you know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, look at this sentence. Isn't everything great? I'm not like that in real life. So getting back to the voice of Issey, which is a blend, I would say, between Freddie Mercury and like Noel Coward, or somebody said that it was a little bit like Schitt's Creek, the TV show.
Yeah.
With like a criminal element, which is really lovely because I love that show. It's so remarkable, It's that show and the novel are both strange because they're both about positivity. And how do you write something with conflict where everybody really loves each other,
Right.
I love that challenge,
Yeah. Absolutely. What do you have coming up? You kind of mentioned that you're writing something now. So are you willing to talk about it? What's coming up next?
If I just said no, would that be weird?
That would be fine. I would then say he has no desire to talk about it, and we would move on.
No, I'm working on 2 things right now. And so Second Pocket First is a Vermont novel. It takes place in the Northeast. At least that's where they say it is on the map. So it's a Northeast book, and it's a very male heavy book. I mean, Issey is definitely a character who's, I think, a little bit more in touch with his feminine side, or sort of like not androgynous, but he's just a person who's not of time and space. He's just out of his head, So this next novel, I have always had female friends. I mean, my wife is a woman, but
think of that. That's whoa.
But I've always gravitated towards being around women. I always liked that vibe, and I'm also somebody who just I enjoy it. So this next novel is 2 female characters, and it's a more of a female cast, and it takes place in southeastern, like coastal. Like Carolina or Virginia, because I lived in
Carolina. I live in North Carolina. So
okay, yeah. So I have family in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and plenty of people who are in like Raleigh and like near Charleston. So I love that area, and Outer Banks is a place that I really gravitate towards. I mean, really, the novel takes place in what's sort of Outer Banks, and it's about 2 young writers from a creative writing class and a community college class who are searching for this sort of mysterious writer. but it's really more about the friendship and two people who should not be friends having to become friends. It's again, it's very strange because TV shows, comedies, you can say that. Movies, you can call them comedies, but books, it's very strange when you say a book is a comedy because it means that you don't care about the outcome of the characters.
Right. And so I keep saying, like mine, I keep saying it's women's fiction with a comedic overtone.
There you go.
Like you have to find a way to allow people to know that they're allowed to laugh.
Yeah.
But that it's more than just comedy.
Right. Exactly.
It's not slapstick joke after slapstick joke. Right. Like there's an actual story here. And I'm hoping that you find the character to be humorous.
Yeah, and that we're laughing at for the right reasons, or we're laughing at societal norms. Because again, there's a comedian named Nate Bargatze.
I know who that is. Yeah, I love him.
His writing is so good, and yet you don't know how he votes.
No idea. Right.
You never feel put upon. And I don't mind political comedy. I love that. I mean, I love all things that have a cool structure. But he has a universal way about him that it's really admirable. And it's really easy to, I mean, there's low-hanging fruit right now in our country. And it's really easy to just go right for it. But how can we go around it and find humor and joy in things where
that are going to be around regardless of who's in power at any given time?
That's where it is, Terry.
Yeah.
If the person you voted won, you can read your book. If the person you voted lost, you can read the book. You can enjoy Nate Bargatze in any political climate, you know, and you forget about really where you are. And it doesn't matter if you're writing serious fiction or comedic fiction, if it's quirky, if it's metafiction. I love metafiction, which is just impossible. It's escape from the brutal daily life. Health things, family things, relationship things. But when you read, your mind goes away, to that place. And it's just a wonderful place to escape. I grew up loving, this is embarrassing, but I mean, I figure you're probably going to ask this question anyway. I grew up loving professional wrestling. And I knew you were going to ask. So, Greg, you seem like a person who likes professional wrestling.
I felt it in my soul.
But I love the pageantry, the carniness of it all. It's such a carny sport.
Right.
But I wanted to have that aura in this book, the stupidity in this book and everything I do. And so in the following book, it's that same thing. And I really like these two female characters in their early 20s. It's a Southern book. And so I do have strangely, I'm also working in tandem with the follow-up book to these two characters because they both belong in these books. And I think it's probably going to end up being a series of these two females who the tension between them is so great because they do not belong together.
Right.
And yet they
and yet they find themselves together anyway.
It's just so charming how life is like that with our friends,
Yeah.
We have friends who we just constantly question saying, why are you friends with me? Why am I friends with you? Why is it always you? Why are you always here?
Yeah. How did this even happen? And yet the thought of not being friends, that makes even less sense.
Well, to me, most of my friends, it would make sense. I mean, I've gotten rid of all the chairs and yet they still come over. There's no place for you to sit, sir. Why are you still coming over?
And there they are anyway. Absolutely. All right, guys, if you want to keep this conversation going, head on over to Novels and Latte Book Club on Facebook. There you will have an opportunity to win a physical signed copy of Second Pocket First. So tell me something you liked or learned, and you will be in the running. Greg, if someone wanted to get up with you, talk with you about your writing, talk with you about short stories, anything else on the plate there, like, wrestling, how do they get in touch with you?
You can hit me up on Instagram at Gregory Grosvenor, Gregory Grosvenor _author. I mean, it's ridiculous. If you just
I'll have it in the show notes,
Gregory
guys.
Grosvenor. And then my website is just GregoryGrosvenor.com. There's a message thing. You can just reach out to me. I'm accessible. I'll answer your questions. I've had on Instagram readers ask me questions. I'll respond to it. I see those things. I see where the person wrote on my thing, not funny, didn't like this. I responded to them. And, said thank you for reading. Buy more copies.
Absolutely. So, guys, run out, grab yourself a copy of Second Pocket First. You're going to really enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. It was a fun read, and he's right. It's kind of crazy. It's nonsensical, and yet it does make sense, and it is fun. And it was a really good book. Once you've read it, make sure that you go out and do a review. Be kind. There's no reason to say you hated it. That's not kind.
It's okay if they do.
Well, yeah, but maybe not put that on Amazon. Okay, like you reach out to Greg personally and let him know.
Just email me.
Yeah, let me
get my phone number too.
Yeah, that would be great. But Greg, and I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Terry, it was a treat. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Online for Authors, where I, Terry M. Brown, author of character-driven fiction and host of the podcast, introduce readers to characters they'd love to invite to lunch. Tune in next Tuesday for another podcast episode.